All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us in this second conversation with female artists in the Netherlands. And to start, I just want to share with you a little bit of what is it that we're doing. What is it that we're doing here and who's funding this space, right? So, can you see my screen? All right.
Yep.
All right, so this is an initiative of the DIGIKOMMUNE project that's funded by the Erasmus project, and we are Innova Aspire, and we are in this occasion hosting this event with female creatives in the Netherlands. The idea is, you know how during the pandemic, the artistic sector was deeply affected by the new dynamics that were set in motion. And some of the businesses dealing with art and creativity were affected in a bad way. You know, it was hard for creatives to showcase their work and to increase their businesses during this time. So the DIGIKOMMUNE project actually tried to, and this is what we're trying to do, to support female creatives in an era, in the post-COVID era. As Innova Aspire and Innova Consultancy, we have been working for over 20 years in different parts of the world. And what we do is that we work in the areas of entrepreneurship, education, employability, and well-being, trying to foreground and to give a space for those populations that have been underrepresented in these four fields. On the bottom, you can see some of the projects that we have been part of. And we recently had our 21st anniversary. So we celebrated that last year. And as I was saying, the aims of this DIGIKOMMUNE project was that along with different European partners, we came together to discuss how to better support women in the creative sector in a post-COVID era. So that's the main goal of this project. And it's in the frame of this project that we are having this series of online conversations with artists, both in the Netherlands and in the UK. The Netherlands, we usually are having them on Thursdays, like today. So thank you for joining us during your lunch break. And tomorrow in the UK, we're gonna have our second edition as well. These are our partners. Some of the conversations with female artists are happening simultaneously in other countries. So yeah, this is part of a broader network of women working with creativity and well, the digital options that we have now to keep invigorating our businesses. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to introduce everyone to our two artists that are with us today. So first, I want to introduce Ebru Corches. I'm trying to say it right. Ebru is a textile artist who applies natural dyeing and botanical printing techniques on her textiles, both of which help her carry the beautiful colors and patterns of nature onto the fabric. And we're going to hear it from her first, and then we're going to go with Guille, who's also joining us here today. And well, we're going to have around 15-20 minutes to hear the journey of Ebru, and afterwards we're gonna go on to Guille. So if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and we will read them at the end for a quick round of Q&As. So Ebru, if you want to start sharing your screen with us, please do so. Yes. Welcome. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here today. I'd like to thank you and all the team of Innova Consultancy. We have met with Innova Consultancy through a workshop that we had here in the Netherlands. So it's been very nice since then, our connection with you. And this is such a great initiative to allow female creatives to share their work, to share their passion with like-minded people. So thank you for that. So I'm just going to share my screen now to present you a little bit of my work. Just a moment.
Yeah, go ahead. We can see it now.
Yes, great. So I created some slides so that it's easier to visualize the story of my creative business. And first, I'd like to talk to you about a little bit about the techniques that I'm using in my work. And those are namely natural dyeing and botanical printing, both of which are very special in my opinion, because all the colors and all the patterns are derived directly from nature. One of them is amazingly old. Natural dyeing is 5,000 years old. So people were dyeing their fabrics or their objects around them with whatever they have found from the nature through the ages. It's a very ancient technique that has been used throughout the history. Botanical printing, however, is quite recently found, we can say 20, 25 years ago. So I would like to give a little bit of time to explain both the techniques briefly. So what is natural dyeing? Natural dyeing is obtaining colors from 100% natural colorants from nature, like roots, barks, cones, like in this picture, flowers, leaves, everything that you could find that has some pigments in it could be used for natural dyeing. On fabric, on paper, on many other things that we use in our lives. And I particularly apply it on the textile practices. So I dye with natural colorants from the nature that comes from the nature. So this technique has been very popular, as I said, since 5,000 years, but there has been also some times that these techniques were also at some point caused some troubles, especially in the times that the slaves were used for the crops of indigo, which is a very famous dye material, for example. But other than that, we can say the natural dyeing has been a very decent practice when we compare it to the chemical dyes that has been widely used nowadays. And for me, it's a bit difficult to understand why and how in the last 150 years, this natural dyeing has been totally disappeared in our daily life, because it is in 1850s that the chemical dyes were discovered, and people found it very easy, and the durability of the colors were maybe better than natural dyes. So people started using extensively these chemical dyes. However, I'm sure you all know that using chemical dyes are actually polluting the world in a very big amount, polluting the water resources, and also consuming extensive amounts of water is just because this chemical dyeing process in the fast fashion industry. So natural dyeing is actually a very nice alternative. We cannot say that the process is the process can be completely innocent and natural, but it can be also, if you want to improve the durability of the colors, it could be also sometimes not so innocent. And it has been in the history that some of the metallic chemicals to attach the natural colors to the fabric has been used, and it was actually toxic. But it depends on your preferences, it depends on your choices. The natural dyeing can be actually a very sustainable and very eco-friendly alternative to the chemical dyeing, depending on your choices of materials and your choices of process. So
Ebru, I was going to ask, how do you get to natural dyeing? Like, what brought you to this? Because it's not like it's not as common to hear that people are going back to this technique and trying to bring it into the contemporary world.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to tell you in a minute. It's maybe, I don't think there's a coincidence in life. It was just before we moved into the Netherlands. I started learning about natural dyeing, and it attracted my attention so much because it's a more eco-friendly way of creating colors. And I also learned at the same time botanical printing, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And so I'm totally captivated with both the techniques. So botanical printing is, as I said, it's a little bit recent, like 25 years ago. Somebody from Australia has found this technique coincidentally while she was trying to color the eggs. As she learned from the grandma, she noticed that actually the pigments inside the leaves and the flowers can also create nice patterns and permanent patterns on fabric. So that's how she started to experiment. This technique also has come into my attention just before we moved into the Netherlands. And this is very interesting to combine natural dyeing with botanical printing. Botanical printing is, as you can see from the pictures maybe, just simply putting all the vegetation, all the leaves and flowers onto the fabric, of course, a pre-treated fabric, then rolling it out and steaming it. After that, you come up with nice patterns and interactions of the leaves and flowers with the natural dye that you're using. I'm going to share with you a little video so that you can see it more clearly, how it actually works. This is the linen piece that I printed with some ginkgo leaves, as you can see. And the piece here is dyed with logwood. Logwood is a tree. The barks of the tree creates this wonderful purple color. And when it interacts with the ginkgo leaves, as you can see, all the leaves and all the natural colorants has a chemical part. They have pigments, they have acids, they have tannin. And when they interact, when you know a little bit about this green chemistry, we can say, you can really come up with nice patterns and nice designs. And here on the right-hand side, you can see the finished piece. It's kind of a mirror print. And this is how I work. This is the piece that is still wet, right out of the pot. So I just wanted to share with you so that
do you have to treat better. Do you have to treat the leaves before, or do you have to prepare them in a certain kind of way?
The leaves do not need to be treated, but the fabrics, of course, need to be treated. First, you really have to make it, it's called scouring. You really take out all the wax, all the protecting sheets out from the fabric. And then you need to mordant, you need to put your fabric into a solution that would bind your fabric with the coloring matter, that is called mordanting. And finally, after that process, you can dye your fabric. And the last step is to print with the leaves. So it's a multi-step slow process. And here you can see a little bit of the results. So yes, how it all began is another story. I was living in Turkey. I studied business administration. I worked in a totally different field in finance as an inspector, and afterwards an operations manager in a bank. And but I always had an affinity for crafts, especially the ones that are reflecting the folkloric, the ethnic values of a culture. In my case, it's Anatolian culture. I was particularly interested in block printing, where you use blocks to make patterns on fabric. But as I said before, just before I left Turkey to come to the Netherlands because of the job of my husband, I came to know about botanical printing and natural dyeing, and it coincided so well because in the Netherlands, the nature I found, it's much more accessible and much more intense than a big city like Istanbul, where I used to live. So it was very inspiring for me to see all the plants around me. And especially during the pandemics, it has been a great opportunity to experiment with all of the plants and all the interactions with different natural dyes. So it has been a great chance for me to discover more and more. This is how it all began, and I'm really enjoying this journey. It's a lifetime journey. You can not know everything you want to know about natural dyeing. It's because every colorant has its own specific way of treatment and all different interactions with the different leaves. So it's ongoing journey. But I want to show you some examples of my work. Here you can see some shawls that I printed on silk. I must say this botanical printing and natural dyeing works really well on silk and wool. Actually, you need to use only 100% natural materials. Otherwise, natural dyeing doesn't work, or botanical printing doesn't work. So I need to use 100% silk, wool, linen, sometimes cotton, although linen and cotton are a little bit more difficult to absorb the natural dyes. So these are the shawls that I printed. On the left, it's an undyed shawl with only botanical printing. In the middle, it's the logwood interacting with different leaves. And on the right side, there's a shawl that I've dyed with madder and afterwards printed.
This is lovely, Ebru. It looks great.
Thank you. So I also believe that the things, the art, the creativity should be in the daily life. So people should enjoy what they're wearing, what they're using. It has to have some functionality. So I'm also printing some t-shirts. I'm sewing the printed fabric into, like here in sleeping masks, some tote bags, and I also incorporate sometimes some embroidery with my own interpretation, a little bit of a modern touch, as those threads are also naturally dyed, and all the ingredients, all the materials that I use for all the products are 100% natural. I'm really sensitive on this. So those are other things that I've made. And here I wanted to show you another totally different natural dye called indigo. It has a completely different way of working than the other natural dyes. And with this dye, I usually tend to use some Japanese technique called shibori. On the left side, you can see some folding technique that is created in Japan. And you fold the fabric on a certain way, and you use some blocks to create a resist print effect. And on the middle, you can see some stitched shibori. You use some stitching to create the resist in that case. And on the right side, I put an indigo bath so that you see there's a very different look also of this indigo. It's working in a totally different manner, as I said. So just to give you an idea about my daily practice. And I also print on paper, on aquarelle paper. Those are different effects that you can get by changing the ingredients, playing about a little bit. And I like to make them into little notebooks with, again, a Japanese bookbinding technique. On the right-hand side, you can see the little notebooks. So those are basically my work. And I recently learned, I'm trying to improve on that, to make inks. And when you make inks that are permanent on fabric, then it gives you endless possibilities. So now I'm trying to develop my skills on this. So this is now the thing that I'm working now. So as a creative female, what has been my challenges? My challenges were actually, first I started an Instagram account, as many of the creatives have done probably. And then I found in a concept store a little corner I hired a little corner for my products, and it still goes on. But I understood that those are actually not enough for me to reach to the people that I would like to reach, people who would appreciate this eco-friendly products much more. So that's why I wanted to make a website to reach more people. But here comes the challenges. There are so many technical knowledge that is necessary to make your website successful. You really need to understand from the SEOs, you have to know a little bit about algorithms, which advertisements to use and how to expand the people that you would like to reach, which are sensitive to ecological issues and who really enjoy natural products. So those were my challenges, and they still are. So that's why I'm trying to learn on digital marketing and try to reach more people out there, so that they come to know that there is this kind of practice, and maybe they might change their preferences instead of buying lots of products from fast fashion, which is always open to a little bit of abuse of human rights. Instead, they might prefer to support a local maker, a local textile artist, and they might prefer to have one thing that would give them joy when they use it every day, instead of 10 items that they would maybe throw away after a couple of times. So that's what I'm trying to achieve now. So where you can find me? You can find me through my website. It's daliatextiles.com, and through my Instagram, Dalia Textiles, and Facebook account that is also Dalia Textiles. And I'd like to thank to one of the participants here who created this wonderful logos and all the digital elements for me. Stavroula, I've seen that you joined. Thank you so much for joining and creating this lovely logos for my business. I really enjoy using them. So this is where you can find me, daliatextiles.com. And if you would like to subscribe to my website, then you will receive some newsletters to follow along my journey. And yeah.
Thank you, Ebru. I share with everyone the links for your social media in case they wanna take a look.
Yes.
Quick question before we move on to hearing Guille. Where does the name Dalia come from? Because I was wondering that when I was tagging you on the post. I'm like, where does it come from? Because I couldn't make sense of it. So if you want to explain to us a little bit behind that.
Sure. Yes, with pleasure. So Dalia, we were thinking together with Stavroula, she's here, we were thinking how to call it. I mean, I wanted to have a name which is related to nature, and I wanted to have a name which is easy for people to memorize, to understand, to recognize. So in the Netherlands, Dahlia is very much appreciated as a flower. And interestingly, Dahlia can provide very nice colors. You can print with Dahlia, you can use Dahlia as a natural colorant. So I thought it really clicks. Here I'm in the Netherlands, they have special Dahlia gardens. People are admiring Dahlia so much, and I do as well. It's a very nice flower, very aesthetic, and at the same time provide color, natural colorants. So I thought it's a good idea to have this name.
Yeah, very catchy. Yeah, good name. Thank you, Ebru, for sharing your work with us and the process that you take on for your creations.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening to me.
Before we move on to Guille, I just want to say it's interesting, and I didn't think of this when I was planning this space, but it completely makes sense to me now that the two artists that we have here today with us, they both engage with nature. And I think that is not a coincidence, especially on the times that we're living in right now, and the importance and the relevance that we need to be given to nature. And I think art and creativity also expresses like the urge to take a step back and look at nature as a living being with many possibilities. So after saying that, I want to introduce Guille, which I'm very keen to have here, another Spanish speaking fella. So Guille, she is an illustrator and a graphic designer who specializes in scientific illustrations, seeking to put nature, once again, as the main character in her work. So thank you for joining us, Guille. The space is yours.
Thank you. I was very curious about also the name that you choose, Ebru, because Dahlia is a flower that comes from Mexico. Yeah. And it's like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it comes from Mexico, and the dahlias that we have here now, like they have like a lot of petals, but like the original one, the one that was not bred in a greenhouse, it has even less. It has like only like 8. And besides being a great pigment, you can also eat some roots of some species.
Wow.
And it's a very wonderful plant, really. So with that said, I want to introduce myself. I'm Guille Pistache, but my original name is Guillermina Garcia Avila. This is a nickname that I got from high school because I used to have like my nails painted in that color. So my friends always call me like pistache, pistache, which is like that kind of green that you see in the screen. So it's thick and I'm still using it. And that's how I became Guille Pistache.
Sorry, are you sharing your screen? Because we cannot see it yet.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So let me go back. Now you can see it.
Now we can see it, yes.
So this is the color I was telling you about, this green. And well, as you hear, I am from Mexico, but now I'm living in the Netherlands almost for 2 years. But since I was a kid, I was always passionate about animals and nature. I was that kid that had like a lot of plush toys with animals and watch all the like Nat Geo programs and had like a lot of encyclopedias. I don't know why, but I had a lot of encyclopedias that I really enjoy watching, like the illustrations. But it didn't like click to me until later when I was studying design in Mexico, that we had like a class which was scientific illustration. So I decided to take it, and I was really passionate because it somehow it merged like these two things that I really like to make illustrations, to work with my hands, and also to be in contact with nature. So what is scientific illustration? Like, it's a way to record and capture nature, but graphically truthful, like to put a like the dahlia, to recognize what makes a dahlia, like how many petals, what's the structure, the kind of leaves, because if you change something, if you find something different, it might not be the same plant you have. And this is kind of what a illustration looks like. For example, this is a seaweed, but you can have a picture of a seaweed and you might think that, well, a picture is enough. Why should I have an illustration about it? But sometimes, as you can see in this picture, there are too many elements going around that it's not clear, like how is the structure of that plant. So that's what is useful about the scientific illustration, because you can put attention to only the elements that are important for you to tell the story. And I also want to talk about a little bit of how do you get to these kind of illustrations, because there is a lot of work behind that maybe you cannot see with the final result, because first you need to have like a previous research about the key features of that specimen, and a lot of observation, like even like counting like how many scales or how many parts is divided the leg. That all information is important when you are doing a scientific illustration, because it's part of the features that make the animal or the plant that plant. And after that, you also need to gather all the information that you can, like pictures and articles and books that can describe how does this look, because sometimes we don't have the live specimen in our hands, or sometimes the specimen that we see in a museum, for example, is not like you will see it in live.
Guille,
So you need to see a lot of this.
quick
Yes.
question. Do you have any backgrounds in biology?
I don't have backgrounds on biology, and that's one of the main like problems I face, because I need to get used to some terms that I don't know. and to find people that it would be much easier if I would be like in the scientific field.
Yeah.
But saying that, both of my parents are scientific, so also that's how this began. Because my mother has a PhD in science, and my father is a veterinarian. So that's my scientific background. And after you can start doing the final illustration.
All right.
So this is how I work. Like the first image on the top is like my notes. It's very rough, like what am I seeing with these animals, especially with incrustations. They are very different from us. So it's like they are very weird animals if you see them. So, and they have a lot of things going on there. So you really need to pay attention to what is what and how is it divided, because it's important. And then, for example, I also make a sketch of like the color palette, because also you need to decide on the color that is accurate to the thing you are drawing. And when you don't have the animal, or sometimes animals, if they are not living anymore, they lose the color. So you need to make like this kind of notes to always have the color in mind of what you are using. And I like to work in watercolors. I feel it's more free for me, like instead of using only a digital tool.
Is this one the one on the right? Is that watercolor?
Yeah, that's watercolor.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like that much doing digital illustration, although it's faster because you don't need to clean the image after you finish it. And being like a graphic designer, you are also behind the screen a lot. So for me, it's like a time for myself to enjoy. So this is, for example, the animal that you see here. That's the name, Galatea strigosa. And then you can see what is important of this animal. So that's a little bit of my work. And this is my website. So what I like also about this is that you see animals in a different way. Like, for example, a lot of people don't like spiders, but if you learn about them, you start to appreciate them or to see them in different ways. For example, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not a big fan of bugs, but these ones actually look. Yeah, they. Yeah, you're right. It makes you contemplate nature in a different way.
Yeah.
With all the details. Yeah.
Or for example, also snakes are not like a big fan of people, especially if they are like venom that they have. But I think with this, what I try to show is like every animal or plant has their own role in the world, and they are very unique. Even parasites, like this is an illustration I make for a cycle of this parasite. And you start to seeing like a more complete world, where it's not only like humans.
Have you studied any of these species in person?
For example, this one, I studied it, but not the live specimen. Although I had a live snake, it was not a specimen, but I went to laboratories to see like how does it look, although it was already like dead and in a box. But yes, I tried to see them as live as possible, but sometimes it's not possible, like a whale. Like
Yeah, of course. Where are you gonna get a whale from?
yeah. Although I went to the museum to see the skeleton, but sometimes it's not possible to find them. But yeah, this is what I like to do, and I like to combine it also with sketches, like with etching. Like for example, this one is engraving in an acrylic plate, and then I put watercolor on it on top, and this is the result.
Can people commission you? I don't know if you work with, for instance, I know some biologists that are looking for people who help them to take their research to a different level in terms of outreach or dissemination of their work. Have you worked with any scientists trying to reshape the research? Because science sometimes feels very inaccessible for most of people, because obviously big words, big terms that we don't really get. And art, as you've been doing, can help mediate that knowledge. Have you worked on any projects of that nature?
Yeah, I've worked with making a book. Like this one was for a book, for example. It was of a specific region in Mexico, and they had to put like all the animals, well, not all of them, but a lot of them from that region, which is Amatlan, the name of the region. And these are some of the animals that I illustrated for that book. And I also worked doing different nutrient cycles, because that also was like a commission that I received from a mathematician.
Wow. So you see, yeah, science and art interconnecting.
Yeah, and sometimes I also like doing like with the nature thing, but putting in like a pattern, like for this one, for example.
Is that wallpaper or is it like a mural?
It's wallpaper.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's me.
Thank you so much for sharing, Guille. This has been very enlightening and very, very interesting. Can people find you on social media, then on Instagram and on your website? Yeah.
Yeah, Instagram, always Guille Pistache.
Yeah, I'm sharing it again with everyone in case you want to give both of our artists a follow, just to keep on with what they're doing. And we had a few questions here for the both of you. First, I think here we are. Henriette was posing a question for Ebru, if that's okay. She's saying, have you found some ways to make botanical printing more eco-friendly? Because she says that the courses that she was doing use rather strong chemicals to get the tint from the plants. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there is a choice of making the Mordanton process completely eco-friendly, and that's possible when you use the accumulator plants that are actually having the metallic soles inside them. So when you reach that kind of plant, then you can have your mordants via these plants. So it's possible to do that, yes. And I'm trying to apply a more and more eco-friendly way of mordanting. Actually, we cannot say that the metallic salts that are used as a mordant that they are totally toxic or totally non-eco-friendly, but it's depending on the way the amount that you use and the way you discharge them. So it's also quite
a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, as you said.
Yes, yes, you really have to make conscious choices, because in the past, because of extensive use of natural dye, for example, there were some production places, they were using intensive chemicals. Chemicals we cannot say, but because the chemicals were known in a different way at that time. Yeah, some metallic salts, but in a very intense way. So it's up to your choices to go over that problem and make it much more eco-friendly, sometimes 100% eco-friendly.
All right, so it is possible. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ebru. Guille, they had Stavrula was also posing a question for you, and she was asking if you have ever illustrated kids' books for children. Have you thought about that?
I had one kids' book, yes, and I have some ideas for writing it myself also. Like I have some of them. So yes. Kids' books are amazing. I really like them.
Would it be with the nature topic? Yeah.
I had one that is like more like it's not my story, so they only tell me like, oh, I need this kind of illustration, and yeah, that's also possible.
Thank you. One of the things that obviously it's interesting like how commonalities we can find, because both of you are artists, you both are creatives, you both engage with nature, and you both are migrants, right? So how do you, because a lot of the people who are joining us have been moving around. So as an artist, how do you find yourself getting on your feet and trying to start your business being in a different country? Do you have any tips on how to do that? If anyone else out there is listening, do you have any tips on that regard?
Shall I start? For me, actually, it has been an opportunity instead of a challenge coming to a new country, because now that you are in a different setting with different people, different culture, you have the chance to start over. You don't have the old paradigms in your mind regarding what you are supposed to do in life, what is your role in life, and what is your job. So you can start many things from scratch. That gives you an opportunity and a boost, actually. And you start thinking, well, actually, I might try something that I really like to do in this different setting. Would it work if I try it? So it's a kind of opportunity as I see it. And it might seem challenging given the fact that you don't speak the language maybe, and you don't really know the codes of this new society that you're in. But it also gives you a fresh start, and you look at yourself from a distance, defining yourself and your next steps in a different environment with a fresh look. So it was an opportunity in the end.
Thank you.
For me, it's also like doing what you like to do, like not being afraid of doing it just because you have like this voice in your head, like, oh, you are not going to live on this or something like that. So just do what you like to do. And for me, it has been like, I've always been a freelancer, like a graphic designer freelancer. So I just continue that path here in the Netherlands. But like searching to other ways on how to keep on doing that with things that I like, because I don't like working for big companies, for example. So what do I like? Okay, I like nature, I like sports, so maybe towards that field, and I feel happy. Like if you are happy doing what you like to do, I mean, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, true. I don't know if anyone else has, if anyone else here has any question, please feel free to pop them
I
in
have
the.
a question for Ebru. Like, how do you do the inks? I was very curious about that.
Yes, there is a separate process when you dye with the, actually in the practice, in the history, this has been a kind of not to waste the valuable coloring matter. It has been used by the dyers in the history to make them into a lake so that they don't throw it away. So it has been a very, very valuable matter, coloring matter, the madder, indigo throughout the history. So they wanted to use all of it, all the colorants and pigments inside. So you can make the natural colorants, the dye bath, into a lake after it is close to exhausting its power of dyeing. So it's a process of making a lake using some ingredients to make it more, increasing the pH, let's say. So it's a kind of a green chemistry working out there. So it's possible to make inks out of the dye baths. It's a really nice way of creating color that could be used in other domains of art.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ebru.
You're welcome.
When it comes to like the business side of what you do, because obviously what you like, your artists, your creatives, but you also like make a living of this, right? And sometimes that aspect, it's tricky because we don't really know how to get our work across. How do we reach more people? Do you have any strategies that you've used to help you put your work out there and for people to find you a bit more easily? Do you have any tips on that, on how to increase the dissemination of your work? Because I know that you have your websites and you have your Instagrams, but as Ebru said, it's not as easy because of the algorithms. We're not all of us are that tech savvy, so we're missing certain knowledge on it. Do you have anything to comment on that?
Yeah, I can say that when people see the colors and they touch my work, they are more impressed. This is what I understand. But it's not always possible to reach people on a physical shop setting. So I also need to improve the qualities of the photos and need to find a way to reach out people also online, digitally. But another thing I'm planning to do, until now, I was too much busy on exploring the techniques myself, but I'm at a point of sharing my knowledge with other people. So I'm going to start workshops and I'm going to share it with other people. I think it's also a very nice way of creating a community that is interested in eco-friendly art and crafts. So my next steps are going towards that direction.
Thank you, Ebru. Guille?
Like it's nice that Ebru said that she's now in another part of teaching. That I think it's important to diversify your work, like not only having one income. Like in my case, I also do, besides graphic design, I'm also a social media content creator. So that's another way to have another income besides only illustrations. But also, like, where to show your work can be also other platforms, like print-on-demand platforms, or like patterns where you can see your work in different ways, like not only in a scarf, for example, or like you could even reach that kind of content of art to other mediums. And I think also it's important to send mails like to specific people, for example, in my case would be the scientific world. So like to search like who is in charge of the sea research in the Netherlands and send them mails like until someone replies.
Yeah, thank you, Guille.
Can I have a one question for Guille and Ebru? Guille and Ebru, if you would go back in time, what would you do differently, if any? So can we start with you, Guille, please?
What I would do different? I don't know. I like my life as it is going, so I really don't know what I would do different.
Thank you. What about you, Ebru?
Yes, usually being a perfectionist makes the life difficult. That's what I would do. Although everything is not perfect, you just make the first step earlier at an earlier stage of your life. If you feel like doing a different thing, then just dare to make the step, even if it's a very small step. So that's what I would do differently. I would just shift to the creative side earlier, I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We just have a couple of minutes, so I just wanted to ask Ebru or Guille if you had anything else that you would like to share with the audience here today before we say goodbye.
I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ulusala.
I just wanted to find out from the artist, do you find that you need to communicate in the language, well, the Dutch language, you're both based in the Netherlands, or have you decided to use English because you're reaching out to an international audience? I know that English is widely spoken in the Netherlands, but I just wondered, did you have to make a decision whether you were going to communicate your work in English, or are you going to be doing Dutch at some point as well?
So learning Dutch for me is essential. First of all, to understand the culture much better and to integrate much better. Although, as you said, people here in the Netherlands, they are speaking English perfectly and they understand everything. But in order to integrate in a better way, I think it's important to know the language. And for example, the shop that I mentioned that I have my products in, since there's no workers in the shops, there are only some crafters, group of crafters, we take turns in the shops to receive the clients. If I hadn't spoken a certain level of Dutch, I couldn't have done that. So it's important at some point, if I would like to give workshops, I should be able to explain, I guess, also in Dutch, whatever I'm willing to teach. So I think it's important to address people in their own language, and I might have the decision also to have my website, for example, in 2 languages. I think that helps. That helps to reach the local people, and it makes it easier to reach out people around you.
Yeah, I'm also learning Dutch because I have to, because of embroidering, but it's also important to integrate and be part of the community you are living with.
Yeah, thank you. Well, once again, thank you both, Ebru and Guille, for joining us in this second conversation with female creatives in the Netherlands. I urge everyone to follow them on Instagram, to be pending on their updates. And just a reminder that we're gonna be holding the 3rd conversation with female creatives in the Netherlands next Thursday, same time. Feel free to join us, have your lunch with us here. If you wanna grab a sandwich, drink anything, this is what we're doing it during lunchtime, because we're hoping that you have some time off during your lunch break. Next Thursday, we're gonna be talking with Annika, who is a curator, and Henriette, that's joining us here as well. Thank you for being here. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you all next week at the same time, same Zoom link, and we'll be sending a
Regina,
reminder.
can I just
Yeah.
remind everybody, could you please be so kind to complete the evaluation form that is in the chat? It's going to literally take you 2 minutes, but we will really be very, very grateful. Thank you. So, thank you, Regina.
I was muted. All right. Well, as we say in Spanish, buen provecho to everyone. And yeah, see you next week. Have a good
Yes.
day.
See you. Bye.